Let's continue with our study of structured query language, SQL, which is the standard language for interacting with relational databases. In the previous tutorial, the first tutorial, we learned the use of the data definition language commands of SQL to start building a relational database. In particular, the relational database that we were in the process of building is this, the one that you see before you, that has 4 relations. And in the last tutorial, we focused purely on this one table because we were introducing the data definition language commands, particularly create, alter, drop, those commands, and we saw the syntax, the grammar for those for that particular command and the other ones, and how to use them to set up this table. And since we are setting up one table, how to set up the primary key and to enforce entity integrity. So continuing on from there, we will see now how to that we will set up these remaining 3 tables that you see. The first, and the sequence will be the following. We will first create the project table, again using the create table command. What will be new here is that the project table, in addition to having a primary key, every table must have a primary key, it also has a foreign key that links it to department. Okay, so we will see how to integrate referential integrity and foreign key, how to specify those things when we create a particular a table in a relational database. So after we finish creating the project table, we will create the assignment table. And what's new there, what's distinctive there, is that the assignment table has a composite primary key. It consists of project ID and employee number together. We will see how to set that up, how to set up a relation when the primary key is composite. And then you can see that assignment also has 2 foreign keys. One is project ID that links it back to project, and then there is employee number that links it to employee. So there is a little bit of a sequence issue in that when I'm creating the assignment table, if I also try to set up the referential integrity simultaneously, then I'm going to have a problem, because at that point in time, the employee table has not yet been created. Okay. So the way we were going to get around that problem is we will set up the assignment table, we'll create it without the referential integrity constraints. And then once the employee table has been created, we will go back and alter the assignment table to put in those 2 referential integrity checks. Okay, so that's the plan of action. And before I start working on this with SQL, I want to point out a very special relationship in the employee table. It's not common, but here's you have a situation where a table is related to itself, and the relationship is the following: is that employees may or may not have a supervisor. Okay, so you see this column here, this attribute called supervisor. A supervisor is also an employee. Okay, so if you think about it, an employee supervises 0 or more other employees. So the supervision, this supervisor subordinate relationship, is a relationship of employee to itself. So if I had to draw the diagram, I would draw it something like this: 1 infinity. So that would be the primary to foreign key. The primary key would be employee number, the foreign key would be supervisor. But this is a table related to itself. All the other relationships that you see is between different tables, so 2 distinct tables, like project is related to assignment, project is related to department, department is related to employee. Here, employee is related to itself. So at the end of this exercise in this tutorial, we will see how to specify that kind of a relationship where through foreign keys when a table is related to itself. So let's begin by starting to create the project table, and you will see how referential integrity is set up. So here's the project table. Again, you can see the commands is very similar. You've seen that in the previous tutorial. You have the create table command followed by the name of the table itself, which is project, and then you have the names of all the columns and their data types, whether it's character, date, string, what have you. And then this first constraint is the primary key. I'm specifying to Microsoft Access that the primary key is project ID. Okay, so every constraint is a reserved word, meaning it has a special meaning to Access, so you can't use it for anything else. So you are telling Access that, hey, I have a constraint where project ID is going to be the primary key of this table, so it cannot be null and it has to be unique. Okay, now notice that in the setting up of this create table command, I did not put in any foreign keys. Okay, I could have put in the foreign keys right now itself during the creation of the table, but I'm deliberately not doing it just to show you something, show you the effect of the foreign key. What does the foreign key do to the structure of the database? So I'm going to take this command, the create table command, and notice that there is no foreign key, no referential integrity here. I just copy it, go over to Microsoft Access, and I copy this command. Okay, and now I'm going to run it, and as soon as I run it, the project table is created here, you can see. All right, however, if I go to database tools and I do relationships, do you see that these two tables are there by themselves with no connection with one another? Okay, and that is because when I created the project table, when I created this table project, I didn't give the referential integrity constraint to Access, so it doesn't know that these two tables are related. So let me now go back. Let me close this. Let me now go back and alter this project table, and the way I will alter it is I will add the referential integrity constraint. So let me delete this. I will come back to the PowerPoint slide. So here is the foreign key referential integrity constraint. Now look at the grammar. Basically what I'm telling Access is, please go and change the project table. So alter table project, and what alteration do I want it to do? I want it to add a constraint which says foreign key, which is this department over here. This is the foreign key of project. Foreign key equals primary key. Okay, so foreign key references department name. So this is just the grammatical way in Access of telling that foreign key equals primary key, which is your referential integrity constraint. So I'm going to take this command and I copy it over to Access, and give me a second to get the run command back. So I run this and it seems like nothing has happened, but if I now go back to relationships, do you see that these two tables are now connected? That one department can have many projects. So here's your foreign key, and this, if you follow the link, equals the primary key. Okay, so that's the value. That's what referential integrity has done to the structure of the database. It has connected the relationships, and now you can connect the content in the two tables. Okay, so let's go back now to the specification of the create table. So I deliberately did this separately. I set up the table and then changed it to add the referential integrity, just to show you the effect of the foreign key. What you could have just as well done is taken this constraint over here, and you could have just as well put it here as part of the create table project, create table command. And then what would have happened is it meaning Access would have created the table and connected it to department at the same time. Okay, so let's move on now. And as I mentioned at the beginning, now that we have created the project table and connected it to department, now I'm going to create the assignment table. But remember, I said that I will create the assignment table without the foreign keys just yet. Okay, so we'll gradually add the foreign keys to the assignment table. So here we go. Sorry. So here's the assignment table, and what is new over there is that the primary key is composite. So the rest of so here's the command. The rest of it is very familiar to you. There's create table, then the name of the table, and you have the name of the columns and so forth. Here's what's new. So this is the portion where I'm telling Access that the primary key is composite, and the way I do that is by writing the two columns and putting them within the same brackets. Okay, so that's how it knows, it meaning Access knows that employee number plus project ID together are the composite primary key. Okay, so this is what I should put into Access and run. But suppose, suppose by mistake I do this, the second command that you see, again I say create table assignment, I write down the names of the columns, but what I do is I write primary key next to each of the attributes, thinking that Microsoft Access will know that these two are connected and it's a composite primary key. Okay, but it'll complain because the way Microsoft Access will interpret this command is that you're trying to set up two primary keys, and you cannot have two primary keys for the same table. So let me go back to Access, and I want to deliberately make a mistake over here, so I'll delete this command. I'll go back and I'll pretend that I'm trying to create this assignment table with a composite primary key, but using this syntax that you see in the shaded area. So I copy this command, because sometimes this is a common mistake that people make, and then Access will complain. So here's the command. Let me get my run exclamation mark back. Okay, and if I try to run it, immediately says syntax error. Okay, so it doesn't like the fact that you're trying to set up it thinks that you're trying to set up two primary keys, and obviously it won't run. So let me delete this command and go back and copy the correct command. So I'm creating the assignment table, but again, just a reminder that I've only put the primary key constraint over here, the composite primary key. There I have not written a single word about the referential integrity, the fact that assignment is connected to employee and to project. I have not done that yet, and I'll gradually do it. Okay, so I'm going to copy this command, go over to Access, paste, and I run it, and you can see the assignment table has been created. Okay, but let's see if any connections have been made. So here we go. Here's relationship. Do you see that assignment is sitting here by itself? It is not connected to project, and certainly it's not connected to employee because the employee table has not been created. But the reason assignment is not connected to project is because I haven't linked these two. I haven't linked this foreign key to the primary key through a referential integrity. Okay, so let me first make that connection, and then after I set up the employee table, then I will connect employee number to the employee table. So that's the sequence in which we will do things. Let me close this here. So I'm going to go back and alter the assignment table to add in one constraint at a time. So here is my PowerPoint file. Okay, so here is the first constraint, alter table assignment. So please change assignment and add this constraint, this foreign key, project ID references project. So foreign key equals primary key. Okay, so this will connect assignment, that table, with project. So let me copy this over to Access and copy this, paste. Let me get the run command. We run it, and it appears as if nothing has happened. Let's go to database tools and look at relationship. There you see assignment has been now connected to project, right? Foreign key equals primary key. And the only reason this connection happened is because you put in the referential integrity constraint. Okay. Now let's go back to, let me close this. And let me delete this so I can put in the new command. Go back to my PowerPoint slide. So this second alteration of the table, putting in the constraint that will connect assignment to employee, this one, this connection, employee number connecting it to employee, it will have to wait until the employee table has been set up. The employee table has not been created yet. So that's what we're about to do next. So here's the employee table, and it's a rather large table because there are lots of attributes. So it starts off the same way: create table employee, employee number, first name, and so forth. So here, if you look at the constraints at the bottom, this part is all the attributes, okay? So it's like all the other tables, the attributes are listed first. It's the constraints that are interesting here. So you can see 3 constraints, right? One constraint, of course, is the primary key constraint. Every relation must have a primary key. Every table in a relational database must have a primary key. And I'm telling Access that employee number, this guy, employee number is the primary key. So that's what the first constraint is. Let's look at the second constraint. The second constraint says foreign key, department, references, department name. So here's department. That second constraint is saying that this attribute department connects this table employee with another table called department. So if you go back to our original picture, so that referential integrity constraint that you saw is basically telling Access that the project ID in the assignment table connects it to the department. It connects it to the project. Okay, so excuse me. This is about the employee table. So what that second constraint says is that the department name over here connects the employee table back to department. Okay, so again, let me just, since I made a mistake in speaking, let me just point it out again. So here is the constraint. I was talking about the second constraint. So if you read the wording of the second constraint, it says department, references, department name. Okay, so this guy, department, references, department name, which is in a different table, and that's what I was about to show you. Here we are. So this is the guy, department in the employee table connects to department name in the department table. So foreign key equals primary key. That's what that constraint is saying. All right. So those two are pretty straightforward. So this first one and the second one is the third one that's very interesting because it is the self-referencing one. Okay. So this is also a foreign key constraint. All right. So it is saying that supervisor references employee number. That's what this constraint is saying. It's a referential integrity constraint. So let's remember the wording. It says supervisor references employee number. Now let's go back to that picture here. It says supervisor, here's supervisor, that's the foreign key, references employee number. That's how we are telling Access that employees supervise other employees. Okay, so the supervising is a relationship of employee with itself. So supervisor is related to an employee. Okay, so this is the foreign key equals primary key. All right, so I hope these specifications are understood here. So we took some time explaining these this constraint. So now I'm going to copy this over to Access and run it. So here is the specification of the employee table. I copy, paste, and let me get my run exclamation mark back, run command. So I'm going to run it, and look, here's the employee table has been created. Do you see? All right. And all these constraints, this first constraint set up the primary key that you can check. I right click on employee and go to design view. Do you see that the employee number has got a key next to it? That's the primary key that's been set up. And these two constraints, these are all foreign keys. Do you see? Foreign key references primary key. Foreign key references primary key. So that's the format of it. So there should be some connections. So let's see, if I look at database tools, what does the relationship look like? I'm going to add the employee to the picture. Now let's see, it's a very interesting picture there. So employee has been put in here. So here's employee. But notice that there are two employees here now. Where did that come from? All right. So Access is no, Microsoft Access doesn't have the means to draw a line from a table to itself. Just the quirk of how it's drawn. So what it does is it makes a copy of this table. So employee 1 is just the exact copy of employee, and then it connects the two through. So basically it says one employee can supervise many employees. Okay, or one employee has 0 or more supervisors. So that's what this relationship is. This line that you see, it seems that it's a relationship between two tables, just like these other ones. But if you look at the names of the two tables and the fee and the attribute, they're absolutely identical. So this is just, so the way I would visually is just if you pull this guy over and imagine that it is sitting on top of the other one. So it's the relationship of a table with itself. Okay. And then of course you had employee connected with department. So there's only one last connection left that I have to finish, and that is assignment to employee. So one employee works on many projects. So this employee number, the foreign key, connects assignment to employee. So this has to be, so I have to go back and alter the assignment table to put in this referential integrity constraint, and then we are done. Okay. So let me go back to the PowerPoint. So this was the constraint, if you remember this, to add that connects assignment with employee. So here's the foreign key, employee number, references employee number. Foreign key references primary key. So that's the constraint. So I'm going to take this, go back and tell Microsoft Access, please alter the assignment table by adding this referential integrity constraint. So let me close this panel. I'm going to delete this. Sorry, and I have to go back and copy this again. I'm going to copy the command, paste it, and let me get the run command back. Close. So I run it and it appears nothing has happened. Let's look at the relationships now, database tools, relationship. Do you see now assignment has been connected to employee? Okay. So let's see if I can make this picture look like this fellow. So we started our exercise by saying that this is the relational database we want to create. Okay. So we gradually, just to recap for you, we first set up the department table. It had only entity integrity. It had no foreign key. So there was no question of referential integrity. Then we set up project, which had a foreign key, and hence we had to enforce referential integrity also. Then we set up assignment, which had a composite primary key, and then we connected it. We first connected it to project, then we set up the employee table, connected employee to department, okay, to assignment, and then to itself. Okay, so that was the structure. So I'll go back to Access and see if I can make that picture look like this. Okay, so here is department, and project was at the bottom, employee was at the top, assignment was here. So let me put so let me pull it down a little bit more. Okay, so Access won't let me draw an arrow from a table to itself. So this, if you visually imagine that this employee 1 is the same as this employee, then I have a relationship of employee to itself, and now the rest of the picture looks exactly like what we had set out to create. Okay, so I hope you have seen now through these two tutorials how to use the data definition language of SQL, particularly the create table command with all its variations, how to enforce entity integrity, how to enforce referential integrity, and in that, by doing that, how to create a relational database.